You can go ahead. We are live.
Hi,
Okay.
my name is Golisa Dlamini, the co-moderator of Sakia Foundation. I'm not alone, I'm with
Atlas Pilani Duma. Thank you so much, Golisa. Yes, welcome to the viewers. Welcome to our panel members. We are here at UKZN, Center for Jazz and Popular Music. So you out there at home, we hope that you are going to enjoy our session. We've got a very, very controversial topic here. The subject is impact on digital music distribution and monetization masterclass. So we're taking this as a masterclass whereby we're going to be listening while our experts sharing their ideas that they have accumulating experience for many, many years. So today is the 30th of April, 2022. Time is 15 hours. We are going to be with you for the next 1 hour, 30 minutes. So we're going to try our best to squeeze every information within an hour, but failing which we are going to exceed at least for 30 minutes just to give you an insight of what is it that we can do. This is not a local issue. It's it's a global issue whereby people have to understand and take drastic decisions as to how they are going to deal with their music distribution. So the question here is like over the years, music consumption was enjoyable from owning a vinyl to radio cassettes to CDs until later when young gurus take USBs and distribute them to taxi ranks, yet with CDs and DVDs to enhance more piracy and more piracy practices that benefit only the perpetrators. In South Africa, lots of musicians tried to fight the pandemic with no success, hence no regulations from the law that protects the IP, up to a point that disconnects content ownership from the artist to the street music vendor. Nevertheless, artists see it still best to continue with the physical distribution instead of digital distribution systems. Now, who is benefiting from the digital distribution? As local artists, are we benefiting? Is the percentage due to the artist? Is it fair? What great ideas and strategies that can be developed to cope with the new normal? So those are issues that we are going to discuss about. And I hope that with our panel members, we are going to be able to come up with invaluable ideas. And we are going to take it, some of them, we are going to take it as a homework, as to really, according to yourself, how can we be able to deal with this situation? Without any further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Eddie Hatitier. I hope I pronounce it correctly. Eddie is one of the most recognizable young cultural operator in South Africa. For more than 10 years, he has been actively involved in the art and culture sector, contributing massively in the establishment of the key structure and in the continent. As the executive director of Music in Africa Foundation, a non-profit Pan-African initiative that has headed since its inception in 2021, Hatitier has traveled across the global setting up network and implementing various projects. So as an active music producer and one half of house music duo Epic Minds, Hatitier has produced records with some of South Africa's most talented underground acts. So here is a question for you.
Thank you, Mr. Duma. So, Mr. Eddie, we have questions for you, two of them. Why is it so significant for the artists to be part of subscription or to subscribe in the music in Africa? That is the first question. And the second one is, what is your take with regards to digital distribution?
Yes, thank you so much. And I think I'll keep my video off to remain audible. I think I just want to provide a context that we are working as the Music in Africa initiative across the continent. Our primary goal is to support African artists. And there's no doubt that everything has switched to digital. That is the new reality. And so with the context of this masterclass, I think we all have to accept that that is the new reality. Now, why it is important for music professionals to be part of platforms such as Music in Africa, which is essentially a free online platform that provides free information, educational content, and opportunities for artists to showcase their work. This is the new ecosystem. You have to be there. It was, I think, Dr. Supostoda, I think we all know him. Once he made a joke. He said in South Africa, although piracy is a problem, I've seen so many musicians that when they go there at the taxi rank and they see people pirating their music, and they get so angry when they see that their music is not there. So they say, why don't you have my CD? But this is the new reality. I think we are all trying to deal with that. And I think a lot of artists are trying to find, marketable profiles online because this is really the new CV for musicians. So Music in Africa is one of those. There are many. I do not want to say that you need to be on Music in Africa alone. What is important for musicians is that you have to find relevance in this new currency where you are out there. So Music in Africa provides you an opportunity to put your music, to reach out to festivals, and also when you want to apply to festivals for various opportunities, Music in Africa is becoming quite a key player because we've got a lot of partnerships with important festivals that are using Music in Africa as a reference point. But I want to emphasize that artists have to really be open-minded, and there are many platforms that I'm sure my colleagues on the panel may share later. The question of distribution and the impact of it is quite exciting for us. I just want to mention that at the Music in Africa Foundation, we've been doing a very broad research to actually, understand this impact, and we'll be sharing these results later on. But I'll just summarize the key findings. Our key findings, and this is us having spoken to 3,000 musicians across South Africa, across the provinces, is that certainly the industry has gone digital, and that it is important for musicians to operate as businesses and to really try to understand revenue streams, where the money is coming from. A lot of this money is actually coming from digital spaces, but it has become important also for musicians to see how they can navigate this new space, because it is a space with a lot of opportunities. Some of the new opportunities include, obviously, the easy access to a market that previously artists could not reach easily. It has become, I think we can all agree that it is cheaper to produce a record now than it was before. And thanks to digital distribution, artists can actually, create new networks and tap into new pockets of the industry that were not accessible previously. So these are some of the advantages that we all know, but that also comes with a lot of challenges, including the piracy that you were talking about. It is still there. Just how saturated the space is. There are so many platforms the industry itself is changing, and how data works and the importance of metadata. And ultimately, what I'm here to say, the gospel that we would like to spread is that the time has come for musicians to really make an effort to see the industry and their efforts towards the industry as a business, because everyone is now trying to get this money using digital solutions. And if you don't know, you're not going to make it. It's just as simple as that. So yes, it's a good time. It's an exciting time, but it doesn't mean that if you were not making hundred thousands of rands 10 years ago, now because we are in digital, you are going to be making 100,000 rands per month. You are not. You have to understand. You have to be clever, because so many of us are now making music, and all of us are trying to be clever at it and to make the best out of it.
Thanks so much, Eddie. That was so mouthful. Right. Due to the way you have narrated this, this is actually taking us to Coyote. Pumla is going to give us more with regard to now, how can we protect these rights? So now Coyote is more into the distribution and monetization of the content, different kind of content. So she is a founder and the CEO of Crowd Africa Tech and Solutions. So Crowd spells as CKROWD. I think this K is actually fusing his letter that begins his name, Coyote. Right. So Crowd pronounces as CROWD, is a video monetization technology supporting creators to publish and generate revenue from their video content published and distributed inclusively in Crowd. So they are based in Nigeria. Coyote Abiadu is also the president of Kama Africa, Akoi Lagos, a media company that produces media projects in finance, premium sports, and delivers capacity to build conference meeting towards development of creative industry professionals all around Africa. A member of Initiative of Information, Art and Culture Development in Nigeria, also a member of Cultural Connections Africa Network, which was formed by Catherine McVicker and Walter Wanyanya from Zimbabwe. And then that connection, that network is actually connecting various music practitioners from different parts of the world, mostly in South Africa and America. Coyote Obiado is very passionate about how art and culture can become a driving force in building a vivacious economy for people in any geographical area. Through the Infest Expo project, parented by Chem Africa, he has interacted with aspects in the creative industry, gathered data, drawn statistics, and drafted recommendations which are being worked on as policy document at the executive levels in southwestern states in Nigeria and internationally. So Coyote, my friend, just take us through with regard as to what is it actually that you are doing there, how to monetize, how to make us as artists benefit from our craft. Coyote, please take over.
Yeah, good afternoon. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to come together with such experts in the industry, and with the opportunity to be able to, teach from the little and modest understanding of the industry that I have. Just like Eddie did, I would like to stay off camera, but I'm sure that audio-wise, I'm sure you are hearing me clearly. Mr. Eddie has given fantastic points, from what he has just finished saying, and I don't think it's any musician, just like he said, that isn't taking digital right now, should consider himself, to a large extent, a dinosaur, because the reality that we have on ground right now is that we had a time when things were moving gradually in the digital space, because I can remember maybe this time 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, when you talk to an artist or you talk to a musician and you say, oh, you need to be on the digital platforms, you need to be online to be able to do some form of, extend your stream of revenue, online. You see them, it's like scratching their heads or trying to talk you out of it, that, what, don't worry, I'll get there soon and all that. But we all know what the COVID lockdown did. It moved everybody. It moved us 10 years faster than most likely I would have done. Because I'm sure that if the COVID did not happen, people will still be taking their time. They'll be doing it gradually, but they'll still be taking their time to get there. But we were all forced to move in that direction at the same time. And here we are, everything is digital. And we now live in a world where if you are not digitally exposing your music or digitally monetizing your music, you would most likely, be seeing the adverse effect on that. Even financially, you see your bank will report, your bank will tell you that you are probably not doing the right thing, just wanting to stay physical. So we run Crowd. Crowd, the name, is crowd. The idea basically is, even if you see what our logo is the play button just in the center of a lot of crowd of people. And that's what it means, basically, how can you get your music to more people? And how can you get your music into more of the people that are able to pay for your music? Because the reason we developed Crowd at the beginning was that we had built a lot of relationship with people in the creative sector over the years, music industry being one of the most important of them. But we saw them suffering. We saw them suffering 3, 4 years ago. And how were they suffering? These were people that were creating fantastic music, that were giving their music fantastic expression. And a lot of them were going digital. A lot of people were in that digital space. And even those that were in the digital space at those times, you see that while their music were gaining quite a lot of traction digitally, you could still see that it hasn't started to reflect in their into any form of commercial success for them. And we looked at it and we said, we tried to investigate and said, what was the reason why we were experiencing this? We noticed that people that were on those platforms, the Western platforms, we noticed them that they were doing, especially the Caucasians, they were doing quite well when you looked at how they were getting traction for their content, especially their video content here, please, not audio, their video content. And yes, they were, you saw that they were also getting a fraction of a penny for what they were putting out. And when you looked at how those videos were created, I think the list of those videos, even on a present level, I doubt if it will cost you anything less than $10,000. And you now try and wonder that after they have published them on the Western platforms, how much do they get? How much comes back to them? And at the end of the day, how do they recoup their investment in the videos that they've created? And especially in a time where it's gone beyond that whole fanciful situation where, oh, I have somewhere to publish my video now. I'm seeing a lot of people liking my videos. I'm seeing a lot of views in my videos. I think the times have passed beyond that now, where you get a dopamine rush just because you see some fancy icons, telling you I like your video, or you see comments coming and saying that, oh, fantastic video. It's gone beyond that. Now it is now about, I have put this money out into this video. How do I recoup this money on this video? and how do I even get a premium value over the cost implication or the cost of that video. And we noticed that the Western platform wasn't just doing it. So despite the fact that we had a lot of Africans or people of African descent putting out fantastic cultural expression, especially from a video form, you have music that's already sounding very good. You now see that culture expressions, colorful expression, and we all know how Africans are color, basically, are coming on this platform. But when you look at the remunerations that are coming from it, it wasn't adding up. So we said, okay, on our study, we now said, can we go deeper and understand this? And when going deeper, we found out the situation was that artists or people in the music industry that were that had the biggest traction. But when you go to the Western platforms, you find that music is one of the biggest that attracts the most volume of people. And we found that the algorithms were somehow formed in a way where the artists were getting a very small fraction of the advertising dollars. So it meant that somehow your music has to move in a direction where a lot of people are watching it. When they watch it, the platforms, they share advertising on your content. And when they share advertising on your content, they now give you a fraction of a penny over what advertising is being shared on your content, because your content is generating a lot of eyeballs. And we said, okay, if this is the situation and we find that this is giving poor returns to the creative, why don't we form a company? Because we already have a lot of relationships with these people, and their pains every day gets to our faces and we see what they are doing, and we are like, this guy shouldn't be in this condition, especially when this person has already 1 million views on the Western platforms. 1 million views should change your life, basically. So we said, okay, let us form a business. We call it Crowd. And when we call it Crowd, the business is a business of video monetization. And let us change the parameters here to be able to, let us change the algorithm here to be able to favor more our own people, favor, creatives far more than this other platform that are technology for advertising. We are saying that this is not technology for advertising anymore. Crowd should be a technology for revenue. It's two things. You are like a byproduct of what technology and advertising is doing on the Western platforms. But we wanted a situation where we created a platform where it is direct content engagement and direct content monetization. So that is how we started crowd.com. And, we went live last year, August, and we've grown already. Just to show you that it was really a pain point, the platform has grown more than 95,000% since it went live. We haven't done any kind of marketing. We haven't done any kind of special launch party. We just opened the platform and went live. So the growth since then has been organic, and we did that deliberately in order for us to be able to be assured that we were really trying to solve a problem. And the idea for us basically was, how can we get artists into a situation that they interact with their super fans, and their super fans also be able to enjoy some unique, exclusive and original experiences, with their artists, with their favorite artists, and for that unique experience that does not happen anywhere else on the internet except Crowd, these super fans are able to put some money in the pocket of their creators, and then that exchange, that unique exchange of that exclusive content exchange, that exclusive access exchange is created into a commercial exchange between the super fans and then the artist. And then the artist is able to take quite some amount of money back home, knowing that I have given my super fans unique experiences, and they have decided to give me a particular fraction of what is in their pocket in order to have such a unique exchange. So that's how Crowd has been functioning. And then there are other things that we are looking at. It now depends on what that unique experience is. In those unique experiences, do you want to give gifts to your fan base? Do you want to promise them maybe a backstage access? at one of your concerts? Do you want to give them autographs? Do you want to shoot a music video and, for example, and put some of your artists and put some of your super fans in that video in exchange for that unique experience that you are sharing with them? Do you want to have a situation where you have digital meet and greets with your super fans where you can call them by name? Do you want to have a situation where you have some special thank you letters that is handwritten and you sent to your to your fans, to your super fan base? And in this level of different exchange that I'm mentioning now, what it does is that it connects your super fans to you more directly, away from the crowd of people that are just conveniently following you on the internet because there's a like button that they can just hit conveniently and follow you. But this one, you've been able to curate a super fan structure, a super fan community that will make sure that you are kept fed, that makes sure that you continue to have the level of income that allows you to continue to invest money in your craft, and then of course grow a base, just because your artist or your super fans on their platform can brag and say, oh, this music video of this particular artist that you are watching, we on Crowd have seen it, we saw it 1 month, 2 months ago before it was released to you guys. And because of that, we most likely will be 2 of us or 3 of us will be flying with him, to his next concert arrangement. And, if you want to watch his music video earlier than everybody on the internet, or have unique behind the scenes access to things that he's doing, you should just join Crowd. You should just join Crowd. Just fill up your, charge your wallets on Crowd, and then just enjoy unique experiences with him. And that's what we want to do. We want to do it in a way where people that are Africans or people of African descent, we already have demand for our music across the world right now. Especially we see what the Nigerian, predominantly the West African and the South African artists are doing right now on the global level. We saw that Black Coffee just got a Grammy. Burna Boy just closed down the Madison Square Garden. These are people who are shutting down O2 arenas of 20,000 capacity. So the Americans or the Westerners are coming late to the party. We already have been partying for the past 6 to 10 years with our people. So that experience, basically, that demand, I think it can only be fully supplied with technology. And because it can only be fulfilled and supplied with technology, there should be a unique experience that most likely is not available to the Western platforms, but that are just uniquely a situation between the fan base that they have in Africa and the artists that we have. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, my friend. And let me just give you just 60 seconds to wrap up. We are just running against time, and really this subject is very powerful in such a way that we need even more time. So could kindly please wrap up 60 seconds? 60
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So basically, just like Eddie said, we need to quickly be able to get ourselves up and doing with the digital experiences, and find out how to be able to leverage it properly to be able to generate better revenue for ourselves and create better experiences for our fan base. And then through that, I believe that and the different unique other experiences that are available, because this is just direct using video as a revenue format for artists, aside the fact that there are already audio options there that does that same monetization process. This is more like giving a business case to videos against audio. And there are other experiences also that are already available, and we're trying to curate on our own platform called Crowd. The Web3 experiences, where you could probably generate a kind of very few scarce tokens or experiences, and you're able to sell them as a collector item, that will grow in value over time. And of course, you can be able to monetize it and become income generating structures for you, basically. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. If one needs to contact you, what is your website?
Yes, www.ckr crowd.com. So that's crowd.com.
Thank you so much, Kayode. We've got, the issue is very burning. So we even look at our Facebook. There's a guy by the name of Billy Monama. So Billy Monama was one of our panel members in our previous stream or webinar. And he said, you can make more money if you concentrate on selling CDs, you know. So, however, online distribution is something that is actually being introduced in South Africa, especially. We are just trying to get the gist of everything and actually understand is really how can we make money? Are we going to make someone else richer before we actually getting rich as the content developers, or actually really have to learn a lot until we are being able to actually see this money coming straight to us, you know? So thank you so much, Billy, for that contribution. And however, this is a platform. We are not here to give a solution for you as to exactly what is according to you, what is it that you want to do, but we are just laying platform whereby we debate about this, talk about this, and provide options, different options. Then you have to choose for yourself as a musician or as an artist. So let us go straight to Pumla. Pumla, this has to do with a lot of intellectual property ownership, the rights and everything. Then Pumla, she is a co-founder and managing director of a legal consultancy, Global Entertainment Law, Pty Ltd. So Ms. Mfeka is also involved in the industry, policy engagement, providing legal counsel, including recently assisting clients to formulate policy positions in the copyright amendment bill. Drafting submissions to on behalf of clients on proposed legal, legislative reforms, making representations on copyright reforms, and partaking in discussions with the creative and cultural industries as well as stakeholders in government. So here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Duma. So Nobantu Pumla, please take us through your experience and contributions that inform Ugutama artists about the IP and the copyright. Can you take us through that? Through your experience about artists, Ugut, how can they go about in terms of the IP and the copyright?
Thank you for having me. So I just turned on the video just so for the introduction, also for purposes of my network. I hope it's okay that I'll speak off video. So good afternoon, everyone, and I'm very honored to be part of this important discussion on the impact of digital music distribution and monetization. As introduced, yes, I am a legal practitioner in South Africa, practicing, specializing in the entertainment industry, so not just in music distribution. At a high level, my role in the industry is really to offer legal advice to the creatives, authors of works, as well as right holders. So the authors of works are not always the right holders, and that's often a misunderstanding that a lot of our creatives have. I found that it's always, it's always a good idea to provide an overview of what intellectual property is, because that's essentially what informs our monetization and how this area of our works is concerned. So, intellectual property is often misunderstood to be, I'll have artists come and say, I have an idea to patent, or I have a song to patent, or something to that effect. And it's because it's such a technical part of our law that is, oftentimes I doubt very many creators would even read the terms and conditions in contracts. It's not the most pleasant area of our law to read, especially for a layperson. So simply put, intellectual property, it refers to the creation of the mind, just in case there are new musicians coming on board who have never really understood the difference. It is the creation of the mind. So a patent it forms part of intellectual property. Then you have copyright, you have trademarks, you have designs. Trademarks will protect symbols and images, and then copyright will protect what we're discussing today and its musical creation. That's very important to understand the distinguishing features, because oftentimes the different types of intellectual property will overlap. And you'll find that when there's maybe a film being produced and a song needs to be synced or a license is requested, it's important to understand how there's an overlap of the different types of intellectual property. So copyright, quickly just to zoom into that in the interest of time. Like I said, it is a type of intellectual property and it protects original works of authorship, so compositions of music. And however, it has to be reduced. The law says it has to be reduced into a tangible form or an expression. So in other words, it's not just an idea. I have an idea of a song, or we were in studio and it was my idea. It becomes copyright once it has been reduced, either through recording or written if it's a composition. Now, by law, the initial copyright holder is the author of the work, okay? The author can then transfer all or part of that copyright to somebody else. He or she originally has the exclusive right to that copyright, which is now reduced. And then he can then transfer it either through licensing. That's where those buzzwords come in, or an assignment. Assignment is often a buzzword that's also, or cession of that right that he originally holds, right? And authors of normally, of music will then transfer copyright to companies who will then assist them to publish or to distribute their works. And that is where the publishing companies will then come into play. Now, the progress and well-being, I think we cannot deny the fact that our well-being and development depends on our capacity in the world to come up with new creative expressions in all forms, especially in music, and the ideas that are coming out of Africa, and the music expression that's coming out of Africa to put into films. We've seen they've done that a lot in Hollywood. And we've witnessed now a rapid technological progress, which all these developments, they require some new reforms on how we are distributing our works. The entire globe, we've had a radical change in the world through COVID, the pandemic, and there has seen a shift. I've attended a few conferences internationally, and everyone agrees that there's been such a shift in especially it affects the music industry, or rather the creative industries, to its core. In other words, musicians have to find and continue to find innovative ways and find ways of shaping this and collaborating and adapting to this new way of how music is distributed. Musical creatives are at the core, right, of this. So the creative is at the core of this sector and its future in Africa. And oftentimes what I find in my practice is that the creative often does not see himself as the core in the value chain of music distribution. Once they come up with a composition, it's very easy for them to say, well, I'm not sure what else to do with it. And what I would encourage all music creators is to have an understanding of the nature of the rights that you possess and the exclusivity of that right and what you are able to do with that right. So when you get into an agreement with the publishing company, what exactly are you handing over? So the key part of it, why copyright was formed in the first place, it's an old principle. It's not new. It didn't form yesterday, and we're not unique. It's a global principle internationally, and we live in a global village. So we don't. It's not a South African phenomena. But the whole idea is to compensate right holders, right? And I just want to qualify that very quickly, because remember, as I said in my intro, the author of the work is not always the right holder. You are able to purchase or invest in a musician or get licensed or assignment to you, and then you become the right holder. In a film environment, which is often seen, you are able to put together a screenplay, and then you are able to sell that, and the new right holder becomes the production company. So right holders must be duly recognized and compensated whenever their work is used. But the solution, unfortunately, Atlas, I know that we had discussion with you on this, it can't be a localized solution, because the nature of the www world is that it's non-territorial in its nature. So it becomes quite difficult to say what is a solution when it comes to the digital world and dealing with the digital environment. The moment you put
Okay, no, Bantu, I think we are just being compromised by the network. I don't know.
It is no longer.
I don't know if the rest of the panel members can
boundaries, the lines become quite blurred.
Okay, no Bantu. We can't hear you properly, so I think we have lost you. Can we actually move? Maybe we can see if you when we are back, then we can be able to give you an opportunity to wrap up. However, let's just continue to the next panel members. Apologies for that. I think that is a network problem. Let us move straight. Let us move straight to Gugulethu Xaba. Gugulethu Xaba is from Amandla Mnotho. So he's a former non-executive director of Johannesburg Stock Exchange listed company. He is currently a founder, chairperson, and CEO of Adomo Holdings Group of companies. He is currently serves as a CEO of Adamo Pix Pty Ltd, a company that works with entrepreneurs across different economic sectors. So he's going to take us through as in what Amandla Mnotho does. And Nonkosi, your journey in South African economic development is amazing. How far the music industry contributes in the South African GDP? Is it important to take the music industry seriously in South Africa? Please take us through.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone can hear me. Can you hear me, Mr. Duma?
Yes, go ahead, sir. We can hear you.
Okay, no, thank you so much. Sorry, this network. But look, I just want to weigh in here in terms of our work as Amandla Mnotho and as to how we feature in this space of music industry and the artists at large. Firstly, I think it's very important to mention that artists musicians in particular, become a face, often are to know about that country, that country. And it's that in South Africa, we start to look at the entire music industry as a business. And that's where we're coming, because we feel very strongly that with the experiences that some of my fellow guests have touched on, South African musicians have not been able to get a fair share of their deal when it comes to this entire industry, as it were. You know, recently we understand that there's been a serious impact, negatively so, done to the musicians in our country. And if you look at, I was reading a report a few days ago about how much, have musicians from South Africa and vis-a-vis those that are from outside the country in terms of their earnings, as it were. You know, that the numbers are extremely shocking. You can see that there's surely something that needs to be done drastically. But how we then, as to just answer to your question in terms of the importance of this industry, we believe it has to be approached as a business, first and foremost, by those that are participants in it. They must understand the importance of this industry as a business. I can't even begin to highlight what we've seen in the past, where musicians die as paupers, having been truly remarkable, not only here, but globally. And you realize that something is not really being done properly. And secondly, Nobantu may have touched on this, because we work together in ensuring that there is active citizenry when it comes to a legislative framework, which becomes a bedrock that assists to drive the trajectory of this industry. And it's even worse now, I think, as our brother from Nigeria mentioned, the importance of being contextual and understand the 4R, and as to how to exploit this type of an industry in a manner that will ensure that you move with the times, instead of using archaic methods or relying on archaic methods. I think Mr. Dubai touched on the sort of like products that we used to have in the past. We all know that the evolution of music industry has been dramatic, and there's been serious breakneck changes and speed in the space, which necessitate our evolution as well in terms of how we engage mindset wise. And so that is why it's very important that there has to be the playing of a significant role in setting up the scene and the foundation of how the South African musicians are going to be treated and treating themselves within the global environment. And hence the issue now of the Copyright Amendment Bill, which we've been able to submit to Parliament as a Amandla Omnotho, engaging even with local and international players who we know very well play such a significant role in the entire music industry. But 2 points before I conclude. I think the other thing is to understand that, as South Africans and as musicians in particular, we ought to have our own institutions that are sort of like wired in a way that would not be exploitative. Because fact is, I was reading, I think, an article again by Ground Up, which was talking about the exploitation, which is very much known in the music industry, that we ought to look at this in its entire value chain and understand that the very first person central to this is an artist and the repertoire. This is the person that must be at the center of this, but must understand the backward and forward linkages when it comes to the value chain of the music industry, to an extent that they should be able to exploit it and create localized industries with a sense of international sort of DNA in them, but exploiting them for their use. I mean, if you look at how much money has been given to musicians in the last financial year when it comes to the incentives, I think I read something to a tune of 450 and 60 million rand made vis-a-vis 88 million rand that our local artists gained out of that. So that should just tell you that again, there are structures that we need to deal with very, very strongly, even in the media space. And lastly, that entire value chain is very, very important to be understood, and for musicians to be able to know and understand themselves to be business people instead of just musicians. I want to quote as I conclude, I think the words by COO Davis Hernandez Valdez. He says, an important task here is to analyze the ever-changing value chain continuously in order to respond quicker to market changes. That's essentially what Amandla Omnoto stands for, especially for artists in this particular environment as business people. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Baba. We call you Nonkosi. I don't know why Nonkosi, because No is the mother. However, yes, so thank you so much. That is so insightful. We are going to move straight to Catherine McVicker. So Catherine is the founder of CCA, Cultural Connections Africa, and CCLA, that's Cultural Connections Los Angeles. So she stays at Boston, US. So without any further ado, Catherine, we are running out of time. So we are left with at least 3 speakers, if I'm not mistaken. And if we can try our best to shorten our responses, and I know you guys are going to be straight on point and you're going to articulate all strong points that you want to share with us. So Catherine, Tolisa is going to read your question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Duma. Catherine, tell us, what does creative entrepreneurship look like for today's touring musician?
Well, hi, everybody. I'm speaking to you from the biggest jazz conference, definitely in Europe. It's called Jazz Ahead. And this is a conference I go to each year. I hope you can hear me okay. So I run an agency that books tours for artists, mainly in the jazz sector, and in some other areas of music. I book shows for people all over the world. The reason that we created Connect Africa, Cultural Connections Africa, is to try to create a framework to facilitate cooperation across the continent. And this is in the areas of education, whether it's music education, whether it's education about the industry, all different areas of education. Also to create a cultural exchange, taking music from Africa and being able to do reciprocity with countries in other parts of the world, whether it's Latin America, whether it's America, whether it's Asia. A third thing is professional development, so that we can meet more people and brainstorm on solutions for the problems that exist in the cultural arts market. And the last part is to try to help develop economic development through culture. I think the industry has changed dramatically for as long as I've been involved. The record industry is not the dominant force necessarily. There are lots of other ways for artists to get their music out onto different platforms. May not even need a record label, they can do it themselves. They can get video out on platforms such as Coyote's talking about, or through YouTube. So I think creative entrepreneurship is trying to get artists and other people to treat culture and to treat live music as the business that it is. I think where I live in Boston, when the pandemic happened, people were suddenly really made aware of the fact of how many millions and perhaps billions of dollars culture brings into a given city. across all different forms of expression. And I think, just as Pulema was saying, I think it's really important to understand how to monetize, how to get paid for what you do. Music is unique from the standpoint of, when you do live performance, unless it's recorded in some way, your product is gone once the performance is over. So it's very important that people protect their intellectual property, and you don't get into a situation where someone can take away take advantage of your intellectual property. You can do it differently with a painting. You just don't give someone the painting. But I think it's very difficult to do, to protect your intellectual property unless you're very careful about that. So I think what I'd just like to say is, I hope that you will check out Cultural Connections Africa and see how we can work together as a community to help protect artists, to help artists get paid in a fair and equitable way, and to support each other by exporting African content to other places in the world, so people have access to the wonderful culture and the diversity of culture that exists on the continent.
Thank you so much, Catherine. That was Catherine McVicker. Yeah, so now we are moving straight to, because of our time constraint, we are not going to talk too much as moderators, but just go straight to the next panelist. Our next panelist now is our mom, Sis Brenda Sisane. Due to time, Brenda Sisane and the two candidates that's going to be still coming, you will just kindly introduce yourself as brief as possible and take us through your insight on this regard. So, however, Sis Brenda, you are the total instructor. You are, hey, what is written here? You totally introduced us, Zakia Foundation, to the International Jazz Day as a month of celebrating jazz. You know, Zakia Foundation is now recognized by UNESCO, Herbie Hancock Institute for Jazz and International Jazz Day Organization, and Jazz Day South Africa as the KZN host of. We are very glad to be with you in this discussion today. So please, Brenda, just give us your insight with regard to the relevant topic.
Thank you very much, Atlas. I'm not going to be long. I really think I just appreciated what colleagues had to say. I'm in unison, singing with the same song, particularly the speakers that came from a legislative point of view. I really enjoyed what was said by Guguletu, but also, unfortunately, we lost Unomfundo earlier on, Umpumi earlier on, but she was also coming on the same trajectory. I loved what Catherine had to say about coming together across borders to be able to find a way to work. But I really want to start from the premise that from where we stand as International Jazz Day, we've always interrogated for the African industry to say, when do we consolidate what are our unique issues and situations? And we've been asking these questions, and I think you know that we had a big discussion with similar colleagues, such as my sister who got lost earlier on in the discussion about what legislation or the land of legislation and IP that is currently governing African audiences, or even just the consumption of the product that is created by the artists themselves. And we asked this on World IP Day, which is a few days before International Jazz Day, to zone in on the fact that we need to find a way of consolidating and self-determining what is, because most of the societies that we follow very quickly in terms of their own policies have ways in which they look after their own artists before looking at their artists from other points of views from other societies. It's wonderful to learn from one another. It's also important to consolidate what are the big challenges governing Africa. We come from a cycle of colonialism that has really taken advantage of the African creatives' IP. Most of the time now, when everything is available at all kind of platforms, we find content that is not even the right of anyone to distribute, that people are distributing because they sit with this content, and we still have not, found medicine for that or medicated that issue. And now we're jumping on, and I mean, I don't think all of us thought when the CD was introduced that we all needed to throw away our LPs, So for me, the question of technology is to ask ourselves questions of where does technology sit? Where does the creative sector sit? And how do we navigate all of these, but also make them public education programs. What Gugulethu was talking about and what the submission is sitting today and being debated by our own cabinet with regards to copyright, IP, and all of that should be simplified to, things that a normal human being like myself has access to and can understand. When Nobuhle Pumla was talking about understanding the difference between, motifs as well as copyright. So I think there's a lot more that has been said here that has to do with the fact that we need to interrogate our own industry. We need to, when we take cooperation across the borders, we need to also understand what uniquely are we trying to protect of this local industry. So this discussion, when I first heard about it, my mind went everywhere. And today when I listened to all the speakers, my mind still went everywhere because I think we've got so many things to fix. And I think on this table, Sagia, you've brought together very interesting people that can contribute towards, clearing these muddy waters before we even determine how best to what would be the best vehicle for the African producer. But thank you everyone for your inputs.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Brenda. Again, we've got relevant people to tackle the issue so much correct and precise. So we are very grateful. Thank you so much. And now we are going to introduce Professor Anthony Ripon. Professor Anthony Ripon, we work with him in several projects at Sagia Foundation, and he has been a professor in different institutions, including MENCOSA. So he works with a lot of governmental departments and did a lot of projects, especially that regards environmental activations, policy drafting, and lot of things. So to you, Professor, this is your question for you, Professor.
Prof, with regards to ongoing challenges, continual changes in technology, SG or the 5G, AI, the fourth industrial evolution, and current social media trends, how can creativity, innovation, theater production, and the performing artists contribute to creating awareness with regards to challenges, environmental issues of concern, and industry distribution be communicated?
Over to you, Professor. Professor Anthony Ripon, are you still with us? Well, Professor just disappeared a little. So, right, we are going to move straight to Ubaba Umambusha, Dumisa Masikela. So, the first time I talked to Ubaba Umasikela, I was thinking that I was talking to Brahu Masikela himself. They sound so much alike, so you will hear him. Babu Mambusha, please introduce yourself. And we are trying to beat time. However, I know that you'll be brave enough and give us your insight and try to adhere with time. So over to you, Babu Mambusha.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks, everybody. It's quite an august panel of folk and information. As Brother Atlas said, I'm Busha Masekela. I'm Hugh Masekela's nephew and Barbara Masekela's son. Please don't forget the second part. And I've been working in the music industry basically all of my life, for most of my life anyway, certainly been around it all of my life. I just like to kind of go back a little bit. I'll be as quick as I possibly can and just say that, you know, music is something that's always been here and will always be here. The music industry is something that's relatively new, certainly in terms of the fact of music's existence. And basically, the music industry really starts with the publishing of sheet music, because prior to that, basically you had people who had instruments and made music, and most of the money, or if any money was made through live performances on street corners and sometimes in bars and cat houses, as they were called at some point, and so forth and so on. Musicians never had any real purview over the business side of things. That was always somebody else's job. And even the creation of the idea of publishing a sheet music, which was the original kind of distribution technology for music, that all took place outside of the purview of musicians and was primarily, or is primarily, a creation of the kind of Western legal and business system. It is true that through the spread of the technology of wax cylinders to shellac discs to tapes onto CDs, the distribution of music and its recording became something that was global. Caruso would be the first person to have recorded for wax cylinders against a lot of people's wishes, and he was an Italian. So there's a great global aspect to the music business, but the legal and economic aspects of it are mostly born in an essentially English or British kind of system of mercantilism. The technology continues to evolve, and one of the things about that evolution of the technology is that we have evolved from an analog to a digital. And in that transition, there has been a change in also the way that music sounds and music is made. And in that change of sound, what you still get is that musicians are spending their time making music. And although I agree that with many of my colleagues here that musicians should take a greater degree of attention to that aspect of the business, it seems to me a bit hard to place on the musician's shoulders after you've learned how to play the saxophone or the trumpet or the bass in a unique way that garners attention, that then you must also double down on studying the intricacies of the legal system and the economics and whether or not you can trust your manager or your promoter. So really what I think is that in terms of the business aspects of it, what we are really looking for is people who are willing to be fair. That's just it. Because in that fairness is the trust that musicians will have in giving over these notions of IP and so forth and so on to people that they trust, who then spend their time, as our candidate advocate Nobantu Pumlas said to us, with the legislation, with the notions of publishing. I mean, if anybody's ever looked at a publishing deal and the forthwith and the herewith and the 2 fours and the back forth, even lawyers find that kind of stuff difficult to understand. Never mind a musician who's spending his time trying to figure out the next shuffle or the right beat. So I think that part of the aspect that we're really looking for, or that would really be great in the future, is that these business-minded people who are in the music industry, like Kayode, are people who are willing to be fair, who are willing to give the musicians their just desserts, as well as take what is theirs in terms of the administration of whatever businesses you have for musicians. So many musicians and so many of the musicians' stories that we hear of them dying broke or being not properly remunerated have to do with the fact that they've got shady managers, they've got shady lawyers, they've got shady record execs. And I'm not trying to disparage those people, but it is just true that in the history of these things, that has been the case. So I think that's really part of the thing in dealing with this. And as Brenda said, this is a very wide-ranging kind of topic. And because of time, there's not an ability to go into all the aspects of it. But I think that there's the aspect of the legal and business aspects of it. And there's also that aspect of the development of technology, which again, musicians have very little to do with, but also has an integral effect on how that music is spread and how it is consumed. The other only thing that I would like to add is that in terms of the digital world, part of what I think would enhance its appeal to musicians and to consumers is if the digital world went beyond simply duplicating at the least cost whatever was the analog. When we moved from records to CDs, there was a definite drop in the quality of the kind of album artwork that you got and the notion of who was credited for this and that. And I can tell you that for myself, one of the fascinations about music is not only the music, but in the music notes and in the album covers and in the where it was recorded, in what studio, who was the engineer, who was the producer. These are all aspects of the music industry that are not always given a lot of attention, but which I feel really draw people in, including your consumers, into the fray. So with the digital presentation, it would be really great if digital innovated, use the aspects of the digital life to enhance my experience of listening to the stream. Lyrics, 3D renderings, a button that I could press that would give me the original album artwork. And if it's a gate cover fold 3D, that I can be able to open it and see the pages in high res, high quality, so that I can become engaged again with the music business and the music industry. Because part of the drop off of all of this is that we are treating music like it's a pair of shoes. And music is not a pair of shoes. I get and I understand, I've worked in music retail. I understand about calling things units and how many units you sell and whether it's number 5 or number 12 on the chart and so forth and so on. But there's also just the visceral, emotional aspects of music that are dwindling through in its digital life, that the digital crowd, if you will, should enhance. That work should go into that aspect of it, so that when I get a digital stream, it's more than just the music, so that I can become interested in it in the same way that we were fascinated with the cassette covers and the album covers and those CD covers that did give us more than rather than less. Yeah, I mean, just a short anecdote. I'm a big Prince fan. And one of the things that I always loved about Prince is that in all of his maxi singles and maxi CD singles, there was always something special, something magical about it. Sometimes it would be a holographic image. Sometimes it would just be what was printed on the CD cover, which what was printed on the CD, which obviously I never saw, but which still makes the CD a valuable possession rather than just a piece of plastic with the music pressed on it. Thank you.
Yeah. That is what we are talking about. Yes, the legacy of owning that CD. It is a legacy of owning that vinyl. you know. So there's a friend of mine, Sipostone, he's having a lot of connection on vinyls, you know. So having that machine, having a gramophone, it's legacy, you know. Yes. So yes, so there's now this shift is actually bring about a very wise decision that, are you really shifting? Are you going with the flow, or you want to keep that kind of legacy? And keeping that legacy, to me, is always sustains the economy of the current musicians. That now, if I've got a CD, selling the physical CD, and it's like some sort of a direct connection with the buyer, or even if I courier it, but now it's created that, you know, connection. Sadly, we are moving. Sadly, the CD printers are closing. Sadly, the CD shops are closing, you know. So sometimes it's just some sort of injection to us that bring about no change, even if you don't want to change, but you know, that injection is forcing us to change. Well, what else we can do? But as long as we keep that legacy amongst ourselves and musicians still printing those CDs, like, rather, let's go parallel. Let's go parallel, print those CDs if need be, and go digitally and see if the various revenue streams are coming your way. So it's open. Let's get back to Nobantu. Nobantu didn't finish up, so I think in closing, we're going to give her just a chance to give a snippet of what is in her mind, and as he's finishing up. Nobantu Pumla, over to you, sis.
Thanks, Butuma. Thank you so much. I was burning to finish because I think, you know, it would be, it's such an important topic, and the crux of it really lies in, and I agree 100% with what Mr. Mapusha was saying, with the fact that those who are assisting need to be fair, because it's a very technical space. The legalities around it is very technical. However, I would then add to that, you know, and I say this because it's important that we equip our creatives as well, even though we understand that there are different players in the value chain, but I think it's important that what you are doing today, that we equip the creatives to understand exactly what it is that they are being assisted in. You know, it's a simple example. Intellectual property is a property right, like we have in land. And so when you are renting out your piece of land, it's important at least you understand how many square feet you have or meters, and whether you intend to license it or whether you intend to sell it. So there are basic fundamentals that I think are important, which is why I, you know, in the intro, I was going into just at a very layperson but simplistic version of just explaining the different areas of IP. Now, what's also key for me is critical from a right holder's point of view, right? Is bearing in mind that there's no way we can reverse the fourth industrial revolution. It is upon us, and it does bring even a broader dimension to the already blurred lines of the internet. The digital phenomena by nature cannot be localized, like I was saying, and there aren't any international laws governing the space, meaning it is governed by business codes of conduct. The EU has, through the EU Copyright Directive, sought to address this, but there is no one international framework in terms of how rights are traded online, which is one of the reasons, the key reasons why it becomes an easy area of exploitation or infringement, which then goes back to those who are administrating the rights to be fully equipped with the understanding of what it is that the different platforms are offering. So for me, I would summarize and say the interest of any right holder. Now, the right holder could be the musician himself or the licensee or assignee of whoever the music is assigned to. You have to look at the platforms that will ensure that the full extent of your rights are taken care of. Remember, in rights of copyright, there is a bundle of rights. There is a right to reproduce the work. There's a right to publish the work. There's a right to broadcast the work. There's a right to, there's different spin-offs that come from the reduction of your work. So when you look at the platform, it's important that you understand what it is that those particular platforms are going to offer. In other words, if we had platforms that were South African created, if there was an innovation that was an African created iTunes, for example, it would still need to comply with international norms. So it wouldn't make them any more unique than the Amazon Music. It just would maybe be more localized. What is key for a right holder is to confirm what the compensation will look like. How does that particular platform deal with the rights, and which rights are they concerned with? And whether or not those platforms are able to give statements of account, and then whether or not they deal with rights which are ordinarily administered by CMOs. CMOs are collecting management organizations of music. Now, sometimes what confuses the space is that there's what we, a lot of creatives have called the value gap. In other words, where the music is being distributed, but there are other rights that are not necessarily, it's almost like saying if there's a tree, if I can simplify, there's fruits to the tree, there are leaves to the tree, there's the branches of the tree. Are you indeed getting the full compensation that is involved in what your work, in all the rights that are possessed in your work? So I want to maybe, in the interest of time, maybe allow if there are any other questions that will emerge. But what I think is important as well is that we participate, not only as creatives, but as entities that are assisting creatives in the ongoing discussions locally and globally, because otherwise what happens is that we get a cut and paste situation of what works in the United States in terms of how copyright is maybe dealt with, or what works in the EU and how it's dealt with, whether it's fair dealing or fair usage and so forth and so on. So it's important that we get involved in these discussions, as technical as they are, and we make sure that those who are representing creators are themselves fully equipped with this information. So if the creative is focusing on creating the content because that's where their core interest lies, but those that are representing the creative musician, it equips themselves fully with a legality understanding of what is contained within the works, and how do those rights, how are those rights exploited, and how is compensation meant to be returning back to the core holder of the rights. And I think for now, I'll end there. If there's time, then I think I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Pumla. This information is very vital. And, I wish artists were able to log in and access this information. I wish this webinar can be able to be distributed or be kept wherever it is, so that artists and even the music business practitioners could be able to access the information and, utilize this information, because at the end of the day, you can have the information, but if you don't implement any ideas that have been articulated here, then this webinar will be of no purpose. However, wherever you are there at home, this is not only for the practitioners who are here, but even among us, we have learned a lot from each of you guys. So we thank you very much. I think it is due to the network issues that we no longer have Professor Anthony Rippon here. So apologies to that. However, we're going to find him on our next webinar. And we appreciate to all of you guys. In closing, maybe I can say if there's anything, Polisa would like to say.
No, I would like to say thank you to everyone who has participated, to even everyone who's online, who was able to come through. Thank you so much. We cannot thank you enough.
Thank you, guys. We cannot mention your names individually, because now the time is against us and there's a lot of you, and we appreciate this so much. Thanks to our host, thanks to our sponsors, our partners, thanks to the university, UKZN, University of KwaZulu-Natal, the Department of Center for Creative Arts, and the Department of Music. They call themselves Center for Jazz and Popular Music. So thank you so much, guys. We thank to National Arts Council for getting sure that our artists are getting payment, the artists that's going to be performing on stage. So we thank you, everyone. We've got Sajay, we've got, Hear My Voice. Thanks for hosting us, guys. And, we thank to the musicians. After this, we are going straight at 6 o'clock. We are going to have the Battle of Afro Guitars. So, yeah, it's going to be burning. You've got 6 sophisticated guitarists here. It's going to be a battle. I've been listening to the rehearsal. I've been listening to the sound check. It's burning.
It's amazing.
So it's amazing. If ungahlebela izophuma nje, soon we are going to broadcast live as well, but not today, the other day. So if you want to be part of this, come to the Center for Jazz and Popular Music at UKZN tonight at 6. If you are abroad, then watch the space. We are going to broadcast this very nicely. So we are closing. We are 1 minute left. If maybe Brenda Sisano could like to maybe put some closing notes on this one. Over to you, Sis Brenda.
Well, I just wanted to say really thank you very much for a very rich engagement. And I do believe there's cause for us to kind of continue this discussion and let it not just be a talk shop. There's a lot of information that we can integrate. I just want to wish everybody, especially the people that have come out like Sakia, to put together events and mark this day, to say congratulations for just, volunteering to step out and do work, because even when I started, and to echo every speaker, this is a day where we call for collective humanity, for tolerance, for understanding one another. And may this kind of approach of approaching this industry as a united society, may that prevail, and may we find the solutions together. Congratulations once again, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Sis Brenda. Thanks. Well, it's 16:30 on dot. So thank you so much, everyone, guys. God bless you and enjoy the rest.
Thank you so much.